Dr. Phil, I need to tell you something that I've never told anyone before. Sean Combs' hands trembled slightly as he spoke, his usual confident demeanor completely absent. 6 months ago, I was sitting in my penthouse at 4 a.m., and I was ready to end it all. The studio fell silent. Dr. Phil's usual composed expression shifted as he saw the raw pain in Diddy's eyes. I had everything, the music empire, the businesses, the fame, but I felt completely hollow inside. I looked out at the city lights and said, Jesus, if you're real, if you're actually there, show me something. Give me a reason to keep going. Diddy's voice broke completely, and then something happened that changed everything. The camera crew exchanged glances. This wasn't the interview they had prepared for. What happened next? Dr. Phil asked gently. Diddy wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I heard a voice, not audible, but clearer than any sound I've ever heard. It said, I've been waiting for you to ask. The audience was completely still. You could hear a pin drop. From that moment, everything changed. The next morning, I found an old Bible in my house. I don't even remember how it got there. I opened it randomly and landed on Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, to give you hope and a future. Those words hit me like lightning. Diddy continued. Dr. Phil leaned back in his chair. In 30 years of television, he had rarely seen someone so vulnerable. Tell me more about what happened after that night. Diddy took a deep breath. I started reading the Bible every morning, not because I had to, but because I couldn't stop. Every page felt like it was written specifically for me. The words of Jesus weren't just historical text anymore, they were alive, speaking directly to my heart. The studio manager signaled they were running long, but Dr. Phil waved him off. This was too important to cut short. But here's the thing that really got me, Diddy continued, his voice gaining strength. I realized I had been trying to build an empire, trying to lift up my community through music and business, but I was missing the most important part, the soul. Jesus didn't come to fix our external problems. He came to fix our hearts. A woman in the audience began crying softly. Several others nodded their heads. People are going to think I've lost my mind, Diddy said, looking directly into the camera. But I don't care anymore. I found something worth losing everything for. Dr. Phil felt the weight of the moment. What do you want people to know? Diddy's eyes filled with tears again. That no matter how successful you become, how much money you have, or how many people follow you on social media, none of that fills the hole in your heart. Only Jesus can do that. Within hours of the show airing, social media exploded. The hashtag #DiddyJesus was trending worldwide, but the reactions were unlike anything anyone had expected. LaShonda Williams, a struggling single mother in Atlanta, was folding laundry when she heard Diddy's words on her small TV. She dropped the shirt she was holding and sank to her knees. If someone like him can find Jesus, she whispered, maybe there's hope for me too. Meanwhile, at Howard University, Professor Angela Davis was teaching her sociology class when a student raised her hand. Professor, did you see what happened on Dr. Phil yesterday? The class erupted in discussion about faith, success, and the meaning of life. But not everyone believed it. Marcus Thompson, a prominent hip-hop blogger, was already typing furiously on his laptop. This is the most pathetic publicity stunt I've ever seen, he wrote, a desperate attempt to rehabilitate his image. His blog post went viral too, creating a fierce debate online. At the same time, in a small church in Harlem, Pastor James Washington was preparing for Wednesday night service when his phone started buzzing with messages. His congregation of 60 had grown to over 300 people by evening. Cars lined the street for blocks. I've never seen anything like this, he told his wife. People are coming from all over the city, asking about Jesus. They keep mentioning that interview. The first real test came 3 weeks later. News broke that several women had come forward with serious allegations against Diddy's business practices and personal conduct. The media circus was immediate and brutal. Diddy's team advised him to fight back, to use his resources to discredit the accusers. The old Sean Combs would have done exactly that. But sitting in his lawyer's office, reading the allegations, he felt a different voice speaking to his heart. Instead of attacking, Diddy called a press conference that shocked everyone. I want to address these allegations directly, he said, his voice steady but filled with pain. Some of these claims are true. I have made mistakes, serious mistakes, that hurt people. I cannot and will not hide behind lawyers and PR teams anymore. The room was silent. This wasn't the defensive response anyone expected. I'm not asking for forgiveness from the public, Diddy continued. That's not theirs to give. I'm asking for the opportunity to make things right with the people I've wronged, and to show through my actions that my faith is real. He announced he was establishing a foundation for women in the music industry, funded with a significant portion of his wealth. More importantly, he would be working directly with advocacy groups to create safer spaces for women in entertainment. Critics called it damage control. Supporters praised his honesty. But Diddy wasn't thinking about public perception anymore. He was thinking about the women he had hurt and the responsibility that came with claiming to follow Jesus. Over the following months, Diddy made changes that surprised everyone. He stepped back from his business empire, turning day-to-day operations over to others. He began attending a small church in Brooklyn, not for publicity, but because he genuinely wanted to learn what it meant to follow Christ. Pastor Washington later reflected, "I've seen many celebrities come through our doors seeking publicity or absolution. Sean was different. He came seeking truth, even when that truth was uncomfortable." The real measure of change came not in grand gestures, but in quiet moments. Former employees began sharing stories of personal apologies, of financial support offered without fanfare, of a man genuinely trying to repair the damage his past actions had caused. One evening, as Diddy sat reading his Bible in the small apartment he'd moved to, a far cry from his former penthouse, his phone buzzed with a message from one of his accusers. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," it read, "but I can see you're trying to change. That's more than most people in your position would do." Diddy put his phone down and looked up at the ceiling. "Jesus," he whispered, "help me be worthy of the grace you've shown me." The story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But for the first time in his life, Sean Combs felt like he was walking in the right direction, not toward fame or fortune, but toward the man God had always intended him to be. 6 months after the Dr. Phil interview, Diddy sat in that same small church in Brooklyn, no longer surrounded by media attention but by people who had become his spiritual family. During prayer time, he stood and spoke quietly to the congregation. "I used to think success meant having everyone look up to you," he said. "Now I understand that real success means being willing to look up to God and admit you need help." Pastor Washington smiled from the pulpit. "That," he said, "is what genuine transformation looks like." The cameras were gone. The headlines had moved on to other stories, but the work of becoming the man God called him to be continued, one day at a time.